For TraderInsight.com, I'm Adrian Manz, and let's have a look at the Around the Horn Nasdaq scalper setups. So on Thursday, June 26th, we had 3 of them, and a few of you in the war room are still having a little bit of difficulty figuring out how to sort through these in terms of which ones represent the best opportunity first thing in the morning, so let's have a look. We had GLNG, and this was really a beautiful setup. And it did move in a very orderly way up through that lower 59.59 band first thing in the morning, and then again around 10 to 11 or so. Now the problem with it was that for the very early trade in the morning, it was pretty wide spread. It was about an 11 cent, 12 cent spread, and you can't really take that trade unless you can get the benefit of the spread. So in other words, you don't want to give up the spread. You don't want to pay the asking price. You want to pay the bid. And that's hard right around the opening bell, so we skipped it in the room. NXST was a similar story, right? That one had a wide spread, and even though it was moving nice and slowly up through that 49.18 level and did make a nice little push up towards 49.45, the spread was too wide to get a hold of that stock. Lifepoint was a different story. Let's have a look at this one. Here's the chart for LPNT. And boy, I had questions about the triangle. I had questions about just about everything. So let's just have a look here and go through it. The 63.21 entry right off the opening bell was a no-go. That was very widespread, and the stock was moving very erratically. Then when it came back down through 63.21 in that second bar of trading, it was still not a trade that was easy to fill. So we just skipped it. At 62.97, we did have a nice tight spread, and you guys filled on that one, and we had a 62.97 move all the way down to 62.66. It bumped back up, hit this pivot. Now think back to the Income Trading Academy and to that boot camp. When you get up to one of those pivot lines, the thing to do is start looking for an early entry or anticipating an entry at your inflection point, at your volatility band. So the 62.66 trade got us down to 62.46 with no problem. And again, the spreads on this one were much better than on anything else during the session today. It was very, very heavy volume, and some of these thinner stocks were having some big moves on some wide spreads. This one came back up, stopped you out at 62.46 for a profit, and then started consolidating sideways. So what's this triangle business that I did, right, during the... now these extend over the course of the session, that's why they're so long now, but let me just draw these again. As price came down and hit this target, we had this pattern form on the chart. You see how it's widening as it moves away from this point? So you have this narrow point that you can almost see where it's bouncing up into 62.46, and then it comes down and it makes a low. Then it bounces up a little bit higher again, comes down, makes a lower low. A little bit higher yet, makes a lower low. Now what is our bias on this position to begin with? It's lower, right? The trading plan tells you you're looking for short side entries, and you've planned for those, whether it's my trading plan or any other plan that you're looking at. Always look at the bias or the directionality that's anticipated for a move, and then you can say to yourself, all right, I've got this volatility that's expanding here. All right, and that's how the triangles were to begin with. They extend over the course of the session because the software is going to pull them out and get you wider and wider levels to look at as that volatility expansion continues. And we'll have a look at that in a second too. But when we drew these lines, right, what we were looking for was a break below the low of this line to confirm that we were going to have a move lower. And even though 62.21 was the lowest band on that chart, it's pretty simple to go ahead and project where you think it's going to go next. Now you guys were in the room, so you saw us do this real time, but when you do a fib expansion, right, to project price, you take your peak for this morning's move, and we go down to the trough, which is right underneath our lows in this one here, and look at this, we get a 61.91 extension. All right, so that's the first extension that we're looking for of this move right here. So we got a 38% extension that we anticipate seeing. Now we had not yet seen this price. Don't forget, this is all based on this move to this move. This had not yet happened. So at that time, we had a chart that looked like this. And what this told us really was that a violation of this low, of this triangle, which was down somewhere between 61.31 and 61.21, would likely make it down through the pivot and then down through 61.91. So your first place you can look for an inflection, of course, is going to be at the pivot line, and then the next place is down at 61.91. And if any of this is unclear, then just go back and look at Module 16 of the Income Trading Academy. That should clear things up quite a bit for you. Now let's look at what happened as this extended, right? So now we got the move down, and it's down through the pivot line. It comes down, and it exactly touches the 61.91 target that we've established now for the second go-around on this thing. Now at this point, these lines have started to extend, right? So they look more like the lines you saw when we started the video, the real-time lines. And as time is ticking on, we get another pop up above the entry price at 62.21. It gets right into the bottom of that triangle. I think it was even tighter. I think the triangle, when we opened the video, the triangle had it right on the close, was right on the bottom of this symmetrical triangle. And then another entry at 62.21. And this is the one that most of you hopped on in the war room today. That move, once again, was going to target this 61.91 extension, right? Because we've not made a new significant Fibonacci-based move that we could measure. So let's just see, because in this case, if we did peak to trough would be the move, right? So we're not exactly looking yet for something different to occur. And then we move on, and look what happens. It comes down, and it hits that profit target again. And look what else happens, right? We continue. The machine extends this much better than I am here, but you continue to extend this line. Let's make sure that we're right on top of the other version of the line. And it manages to contain then the progression that is occurring the rest of the way. So if you were looking for another entry to the downside and possibly an extension to 61.79, you just look for a pop back up to that trend line and then a move down through there and possibly then down to 61.79. So this one was a little bit advanced. Trading today was a little bit hectic, but once you've looked at Income Trading Academy Session 16 a couple times and have been working with these for a few weeks, it should be the case that in the first hour of trading you can do things like pick up one entry, 63.21 down to 62.96. That's 25 cents a share. And then either stay in or pick up for the first time an entry at 62.96. That gets you down to 62.66. That's 30 cents a share. Now you're at 55 cents a share on the trade. Then you get a bump back up to the pivot. Come back down. The 62.66 entry gives you another 20 cents. Now you're at 75 cents a share. Gets down into the symmetrical triangle, and you're trying to figure out what your extension is going to be. Comes down through that last volatility band. That doesn't mean stop looking. That means draw that fib line. You had that fib line drawn while it was in that triangle, gave you a projection down to here. That's another 31 cents. So $1.06 per share traded on a Nasdaq scalper setup. You don't have to take them all. You don't have to have them all triggered. They don't all trigger every day by any stretch of the imagination, and you do cherry pick these based on how easy they are to enter and how easy it is to not give up the spread. If you'd like more information about the Nasdaq Scalper service, shoot me an email, adrian@traderinsight.com. Membership in the Scalper trading service is limited because we don't want to mess with the liquidity on these, but you can always be waitlisted. A lot of these people move on and do the full trading plan or start developing their own scalper trades based on the information in the modules, so there's always going to be room for new folks at some point. But again, as always, send me your questions, adrian@traderinsight.com. I hope you had a great trading day, and I hope you have a great day tomorrow.